Today we have on Chad Brodsky from, is it CBT Group?
Correct.
The parent company. But
Company.
most of you may know him from City Brew Tours. Started out in 2008, so we got an OG in here. I think he's got you potentially beat on time frame of being open.
Yeah, he's got me beat.
He's got you
By
beat.
3 years.
So it should be a fun conversation because Chad's also in the franchising space. So I feel like we have a lot of similarities, but probably also a lot of differences in the way that we do things and just our product offering, you know, and all that. So
I gotta work, grind. That's just the way it is. I gotta get up, scale, and grow my biz. I gotta scale, grow, get up, go, scale, grow, get up, go.
Chad, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Excited to be with you guys.
Heck yeah. So 2008, man, I graduated high school in 2009. If that puts it into perspective, how did you get started with this? That's pretty early in the tour world. Nowadays, you don't see too many people that have been around that long.
Yeah, 2008 was not a good time to be a financial analyst, which is what I was studying in school, because it was the heart of the Great Recession. And I had just come back from studying abroad in Vienna, Austria, which I went from being able to drink legally in Europe to not being able to drink coming home. And I was in the University of Vermont up in Burlington, Vermont. Burlington was a number 4 per capita beer city in the world at that time. There was like 6 breweries in the city, which
That's
is
funny.
ridiculous now. Like, 6 breweries, like the smallest town in some random place has 6 breweries, but this was back in 2008. And so essentially couldn't get an internship. Thought about Burlington. If you guys ever been up to Burlington, Vermont, I highly recommend it. It's an amazing place. Can't recommend Burlington. There's this pedestrian street called Church Street. And on Church Street, there's bars and restaurants. If you've been to Boulder, there's Pearl Street. So it's similar to Boulder, Colorado. And there were some breweries there. And I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll do a pub crawl and play that angle. But having just come back from experiencing beer in Austria and having bought my first pair of German Lederhosen when I went to Oktoberfest, I was like, I'm going to do a brewery tour, because you'd see at this time in 2008, there were very few laws when it came to like drinking beer in breweries. They didn't really have tap rooms. So people would just go and get like, you could drink as many 2-ounce tasters of beer as you wanted. And they would just go from brewery and brewery to just drinking all this free beer. And it was very, very dangerous. So I was like, okay, how can I create this unforgettable experience with that? Doesn't just create this, let them taste the beer, but learn behind the scenes, learn about the people that were making the beer, and created the City Brew Tours, or at that point, the Burlington Brew Tour experience. And it all started with me wearing German Lederhosen until we discontinued that part of the tour after a lot of people were requesting less man thigh.
Oh, by
The
popular
reviews,
demand, you get rid of it.
please
Okay.
less
Sorry.
man thigh.
Exactly.
So they made you get rid of the Lederhosen by popular request.
Exactly.
Man.
Yeah. Damn, that's crazy. So were you still in school when you started this?
Yeah, I actually kept my van in the fraternity house, which there may or may not have been pictures drawn on the buses. It's in various points in time, and like magic erase marker with my fraternity brothers messing with me.
Yep, I can imagine. That's man, that's crazy. So that's like your first job. Did you have a job before this? Is this like, it's kind of crazy to me because I had a few jobs before like starting Get Up and Go. I wouldn't know how to I don't think like start a business without having worked the jobs that I did. Is this like the start of everything, or did you have jobs before that?
Yeah, I had like summer jobs. I had internships. So I was pretty familiar with like the internship side of things, like from finance and just like mortgage, like cold calling people during dinner time, trying to get their social security numbers for mortgage brokerage companies, random things that you would just do going through high school and college and whatnot. So I had some of those jobs, and then I started Brew Tours in 2008. I graduated in 2009, so I was a senior running Brew Tours, just old enough to drink. And then I got a finance job while running the Brew Tour business. And then I wasn't cut out for corporate America. I would answer phones, Burlington Brew Tours, Chad speaking while I'm in the office. They
Doing
blocked
someone's
all
financials.
I'd finish my work quite quickly, and then I'd be nothing to do. So I'd be like answering Brew Tour phone calls until they blocked all of my like business addresses at the time. I also was launching like a tech company while doing this. My first failed business at the same time. I've never kind of had. I'm always like have my fingers in a lot of different things. I don't like sitting still, as I'm sure both of you guys feel the same.
I can relate. Yeah. How long did that period last where you were like had one foot in a job and one foot growing the business?
I did it for 3 years. It would be like my employees would be like, Chad, can I get paid today? Like that's kind of, it was like a very much not a focus of mine until 2012. So it was about 4 years before I decided to take the plunge and go all in on Brew Tours.
What changed? I mean, I remember making this decision myself. Like, I actually remember the moment where I decided to go all in, you know? I'm curious, like, what made you make the plunge, into being a full-time entrepreneur?
I knew what my trajectory was from a monetary perspective. So kind of understanding if I stayed in this role, which there were people staying in this financial institution for quite some time, I kind of had a sense of being in the position, I could see what their compensations were. So I had a sense of, all right, if I don't launch Boston, someone else is going to beat me to the punch because it's not rocket science what I'm doing, as there are other brewery tour operators throughout the country, like more mom and pop ones. So I knew I had to just go all in on the Boston side of things. And I also happened to have a girlfriend at the time in New Hampshire. So it was just like, well, if I want to see her more, I just drive to Boston. She's closer to that side. I don't have to make as many trips to Vermont and whatnot. So
it's funny. On my side too, a girl is a big part of why I decided to jump in full time as well. So totally understand that motivation.
Was it a proximity thing? What was the
Thing, yeah.
proximity, right?
Yeah, it helped me jump over the edge. It might have been more to do with it than even the business at that time.
Same. It's same. I was like, all right, I need somewhere to sleep because otherwise I'm going to be sleeping in the van, which I may or may not have done a few times while launching in the beginning, like a new city, because I didn't have the funds to stay in a hotel or needed to because I was 20, I was 21 or whatever. It's like, who cares?
Yeah. So you say the van, is that something that people get in and you bring them to the different breweries, or are you guys walking along the way? How does that work?
Yeah, so how the tours work is, so first, we're education first craft beer experience. I think that's important. We're not a drunk bus. We don't cater towards a demographic of like when starting the business, like 21 to like 25, like we're a much higher caliber of experience. And so typically we have 15 passenger vans where we offer public and private tours, and most of the tours include that mobile transportation where we take you to 3 different breweries. We include a snack, you get a flight of beer, you go behind the scenes. And it's usually the guide that's giving those behind the scenes experiences, which actually really, I think, has been so helpful because you're not getting the same cookie cutter experience of this is how beer is made. Also, I'm sure you guys have been to a brewery where the brewer is not the most charismatic person, and it is quite the terrible tour. And so having our tour guides are all experts in craft beer, and that's part of the training process. And so they're the driver, they're the expert that's taking you behind the scenes, and then they're also your entertainer and your enforcer if it comes to that.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
kind of have four different roles, our tour
Yeah,
guides.
that makes a lot of sense. So after these first 4 years of doing business, is that when you opened up Boston, or like what made you? How did you quit the full time job? Was it now I've got enough money that I can live, just with doing the tours? Did you have a tour guide at that point? Like
Yeah,
what
so I
really
wasn't
made that
really
happen?
running any tours in Burlington at the time. I had a tour guide that kind of ran all of the tours and didn't manage, like, essentially manage the business, but not really. Like, just that person that was just your go-to
Yeah,
tour guide. And Boston, and when I decided to go all in on the Boston side, I knew I couldn't. Well, actually, I was going back and forth on weekends until Boston was open. So I still had a finance job. It was not until like I actually had Boston live and operating and saw that there was this opportunity to scale, and Boston was already showing significant revenue compared to Burlington, just given the size. One was like a 330,000 person town, and Boston was
yeah,
a 3 million person town at the time from a population perspective. So that kind of, once I kind of saw the potential in Boston, I knew I can go all in on that side. But I was going every weekend, I was going back and forth to see the girl and to run a tour in Boston.
yeah. That's cool. And so how long into it did you then decide to open a third city? How, like, where's it at now, kind of, between those first 4 years and then the next however many years after that? Like, how did franchising come into play? How many locations, and kind of an overview of where it's at now?
Yeah, so right now we're in 22 markets. 12 of those are franchises and 10 or corporate owned. We kind of went from 2012 to 2018, just like on like opening corporate locations. So I would go in, just like I opened Philly, I opened DC. I did that myself. I remember when I met my wife. It was like 2014. I think she would kill me if I was not right, but let's assume it was 2014. She was like, "Chad, you need to hire someone to be the ops person, because you're like, I'm fine burning the candle. I still do it. Like I burn the candle on both ends still. Like I'm fine doing that, but that was kind of the point where it was her pushing that you need to bring on someone to be that ops private salesperson, whatever it is. And that was in 2014. And then from there, we kind of started to really scale
It's funny, your story.
from opening corporate locations and whatnot.
Yeah, your story sounds so similar to ours, actually, as you're saying this. Even the whole, wife kind of nudging you to
Girlfriend at
hire
the
the
time
person.
was like, you need to bring someone on.
Yeah. Yeah, we did the same thing with our businesses. We started with corporate stores first, and kind of like you, opened 10 locations. And that was kind of the point to where we looked at franchising. You start off all corporate stores. Like, what made you pick the franchise model to kind of grow after that? Like, talk to me about that transition and how that came about.
We had a this couple from Montreal reach out to us, being like, "Hey, can we start a brew tour in Montreal?" And we're like, "Sure, go for it." Well, it turns out, and this is something that for your audience is, Quebec doesn't really have much from a franchise law, like very, very little. And so anything goes. And so one of the ways, because obviously becoming a franchisor system is not the cheapest thing that you could do from a scale perspective. However, we first cut our teeth doing it in Quebec. So we got our FDD in Quebec. So we did it all through Canada. And that was like $4,000 or $5,000 just to do the whole FDD for that entirety. And then, so we signed Montreal up as the first City Brew Tour. They're still operating. They're doing great. They just did their renewal. So we had our first renewal. So that was in 2018, end of 2018. And then we decided, okay, let's do the U.S. because we had someone else who wanted a franchise in the U.S. in Jersey. And so we then went like, here's our FDD from Canada. They were like, well, this isn't going to work. However, you're not starting from scratch because all of the information, everything's already gathered. Yeah. So for another 3 or 5K, we had an FDD that was ready to go in the U.S. And so we signed our U.S. franchise, first franchise in beginning of 2019.
Got it. Yeah, so franchising in the United States is still relatively new. Like you're only 5 years into that.
Yeah, so we were the we went corporate expansion, built the corporate team, probably built it too big in that regard of just operating corporate locations. And then the franchise system, we didn't really focus. It was kind of just like organically growing, starting mid 2019.
That timeline matches up really closely with ours too. We did corporate expansion through 2019 and started franchising around then as well. So we've been on very similar journeys.
I know.
We also expanded
brother from another mother.
Side. We expanded our corporate side too much as well.
Yeah, we made some poor decisions in locations on the corporate side that we shouldn't have done, and
I feel like you should just interview myself at this point.
Oh man! So these first couple of people that come on as franchisees, like, how did they learn about your brand? Did they do tours with you? Did they just like search you on the internet? Like, how did that even happen?
They were just tour guests that enjoyed our experience. We have a really strong, as you guys do too, have a really strong NPS score, Net Promoter Score, as well as a strong reviews across all the cities. And they're just previous guests that had a great time. And this was kind of as craft beer was evolving, right? Just to give people a sense, when I started the Brew Tours, there were probably like 1,100 breweries in the U.S. There's 9,800 now. Wow. So almost 10x
crazy
the number of breweries. So kind of craft beer blossomed as we were growing. So people would come on tours and they would be like, I can do this in my location. Let's go.
Yeah, that's cool. And they've already done the experience. So like, you don't have to really sell them on like what it's going to be like. They've already done it. They know how it looks and should run and feel. You know, we've had a couple of those also, and it's just like, I don't know. It makes the sales process a little bit easier. You Definitely. Know, they're coming to you. They wanna do it, and that's been really nice. Where are the other franchisees coming from? Are you guys doing a lot of marketing from like the franchisor side of things? Is it friends, family? Have you found something?
So no friends or family. So everyone gets like these lanyards on tours, these VIP lanyards. So I don't know if this actually has it. I don't know. This might be a really old lanyard, but like we have franchising stuff right in these lanyards. Cool. Oh, we do. There you go. So like here, everyone gets this franchise with us kind of thing. So it just becomes kind of that flywheel in regards to people go on tours. The guides have commissions if they sell a franchise or get an inquiry that then becomes a franchise. So that's kind of been just that organic marketing. I just made my first user-generated video content, whatever, of franchising, and that's done really well. And it's just me sitting and like banging my head against a desk and then jumping to like a promo reel of Brew Tours and talking. So I think definitely just putting a face to the name, that type of digital marketing video is showing some real legs in regards to, from a marketing perspective. We've done email lists where, like, given that we're in the craft beer space, there's a craft beer community like Untapped. Yep. And so we've done other locations where we're just kind of reaching people that love craft beer, because that's kind of the prerequisite. You have to love craft beer. I'll teach you to become an expert. That's my job. I'll teach you how to run everything. You just need to love craft beer and be tenacious.
And you don't have to wear Leverhausen.
No lederhosen for you.
Kind of bummed. Yeah, I wish that was still part of it. You should make them all wear
That's a requirement.
I'll say that in our renewal right now.
Yeah.
I'm a little late on my FDD renewal, So it should be done this week, but maybe I need to make a correction, be like required
Yes,
uniform
100%.
is Lederhosen, and they have to buy it from me. So then it'll be uh, some approved supplier revenue.
What size team do you have on the franchise side? Like, what does it look like in terms of like what hires have you made?
Yeah, so our like evolution's been a little different than I would say most. So pandemic hit for us. For you guys you're more an outdoor experience. We're
Yeah.
not, right? We require in person with breweries. So the breweries need to have capacity. It's not just like, hey, we're going to take you around open air. If you want to be with these strangers and potentially get COVID, you can. So we were very like, we shut down for 2.5 years almost during the pandemic. And I launched a new business and I scaled that business pretty quickly and built out a pretty, probably too big of a team, 30 plus people. And then I have my structure is a little strange. I have this like operations management company. So CBT management is the structure that has all of salaries. That's like laying out the advertising and marketing. Then I have my franchise entity, and then all the separate cities. And then I have a new business, Unboxed Experiences, that was the only thing operating during the pandemic. So that's kind
So
of so everyone kind of does everything. Like my
really,
sales team is not
your
just
team's like
selling brew
cross
tours.
trained on the different aspects of your little your little umbrella group.
Exactly. So yeah, so like my salespeople are not just selling private brewery tours; they're selling virtual. So Unboxed Experience is a virtual events business that ships kits that are usually culinary themed. So we have like a beer and cheese, a wine and cheese, charcuterie making. So we built out the fulfillment system during the pandemic, and that's did really well. And we scaled. I put in a much bigger structure probably than I needed to. And then after the pandemic, like things came crashing down. But that's a different story. So now my team that was like 15 no, sorry, my team at the height of the pandemic was like 33 people, 35 full-time people, and now we're at 5.
Oh
So
wow.
I've now like, and we're still kind of doing that same operation. So
Yeah.
from a lesson in scaling, just because you have money doesn't mean you should be hiring people to scale and invest in things of that nature.
That's really fascinating though. So like everything gets shut down, right? I'm sure you're panicking like everyone else, like we were. Right? Everything like we're outside, but we still can have people sit right next to each other.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
like you, we're dependent, at least for the party bikes, not for the boats, which at the time was a much bigger part of our business. We had 12 locations at that point. We need like stops to go at, right? These are like pub crawls. And so, just like you, we had to really, like, it was scary. So I'm really interested to see, like, how did you respond to that and like where did Unbox come from? Did you just say like I got to come up with another idea, or did you have one like in the bank that ready to go and like this is the perfect time to do this? Or
No,
you thought like
it
what do
was
I do?
yeah, it was scary. We saw what $200,000-300,000 evaporate in
Oh
a
yeah.
matter of days, as I'm sure you guys.
Deposits all gone. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all and we're in the deferred revenue game, right? We get money, we can leverage that money, which is great. Like so, you don't necessarily you could just borrow from yourself, and obviously that's what we were doing from a scaling perspective. We never took any kind of investments or anything. Everything has been like bootstrapped, and so we were borrowing from ourselves, so that was scary. And we furloughed people for 2 weeks until we could figure out like, all right, what the hell are we gonna do in this regard? And we kind of looked at what our resources were at the time, and so we had guides, we knew craft beer, and then the biggest thing is we had a pretty solid corporate database of meeting planners because everyone who was doing all these in-person meetings didn't have anything to do and they had all these budget. And so how do you engage? So looked into figuring out, okay, how do we ship beer in the mail? All right. My buddy Todd at the time who was working for it's like, Todd, how big is your garage? Can you get can you go to Costco and get a lot of cheese?
That's great.
And so we're talking to like cheese providers, like, hey, how much cheese can we get? Who can we? And so it was just kind of like fly by the seat. May not have been the most legal. It was not a legal operation at the time because we were just trying to figure out, okay, first, is there demand? We got some good press. We were in Inc. magazine. We got a bunch of, I pride myself on if there's like newsworthy, I'm pretty good and tenacious at getting access to the different journalists and things of that nature. So I think that we were one of the first to kind of get it into the virtual events game when we did it. I think March. I think we had it live by April of 2020. Like we went
nuts.
hard and fast to figure that out.
I'm just imagining Todd reading his text, being like, "I got a 2-car garage. Like,
Yeah.
like, what do you want to know? You know,
Like, how much cheese can I fit around your Corolla?
Yeah, I had employees being asked like cheesemonger questions at Costco because they have like these containers full, like Costco containers, like Costco carts full of cheese, thinking that they work there and they know all about cheese and whatnot. And yeah, it was crazy times, but we did very well during the pandemic. So, and then we were able to keep one City Brew
Kind of
Tours.
like bridged the gap. And
Yeah, we did more. This Unbox was doing almost double what City Brew Tours was doing in 2019.
That's crazy. But that market really kind of slowed down, I'd imagine, as everything opened back up again.
Yeah.
But it still exists, right?
Yeah, so that market definitely, like City Brew Tours was hemorrhaging money still because it still had expenses. I have vans, I wasn't selling the vans, right? So the vans all sat idle, so they were losing. Business was losing money. I had employees still, so not everyone. So it was definitely a really scary time, but we managed to pivot and whatnot, and so. Yeah, so City Brew Tours kind of was on the back burner until government mandates came up. But yeah, Unbox like halved every year. It's still a solid business with really strong margins, but it's like a quarter or a fifth of what it was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
so you're newly franchising in 2019. COVID hits, so then really you're not franchising for a little bit of time.
We're still
Or
franchising.
you're planning ahead further,
People still bought franchises during the pandemic.
That's good.
Wow.
We weren't trying to sell, but people were interested,
Yeah.
and we got like 2 franchisees during the pandemic.
So
And they were
it
just
gives
waiting
you-
for things to open back up again, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were more in the South, so it was less.
Yeah.
There were less restrictions compared to like Massachusetts, which didn't really open up until, I don't know, July of 2021 or something like that. Crazy.
Yeah.
I think there's one in Raleigh where I live. Pretty sure.
Yeah. There was one in Raleigh.
There was a franchisee
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I remember.
We've lost 2 franchisees to babies.
The babies. Oh, I understand now. Not the babies
Yeah.
like. they didn't
Hard to newborns and starting businesses is not the
Yeah.
best mix.
Or running them. I found. I have 2. So
Yeah, I have a 4.5-year-old, so
interesting.
That's cool. So once you start selling franchises, do you stop growing your corporate stores? Are you now fully focused on franchising, and how's that kind of process been?
yeah. So we opened our last corporate store in 2023, Asheville, and that was because Raleigh closed and we had this van and Asheville was so close, and it was like, well, let's just go into
It's a
Asheville.
great-
I mean, it's
great brewery
the SEO, from an SEO perspective, and looking at just the amount of people just organically searching. Like I use SEMrush, I'm sure, to kind of dictate where, how popular a market might be. And Asheville would just look like it was already had the biggest expense to launch that market. So let's just see see how it does. And so that was the last corporate location, and then we're not. Actually, I'm trying to scale. I'm trying to sell corporate locations right now. I'm trying to liquidate almost all my corporate locations so I can focus on the franchise system, because I don't know about you guys, but I mean, Kai, are you tired? Because I'm very tired.
I'm tired. Yeah,
And
we own, at our peak, we had 16 corporate stores.
wow, so were you selling, or did you close those,
We
or
are,
how?
yeah. And we sell a couple a year to franchisees, just like you. We're on the same path now I think we're down to 10 corporate stores now. And yeah, we market a couple years and transition them to franchises for the same reason. We want to focus on franchising, on support.
Yeah.
Um,
It takes so much to
Justin's
operate.
smart.
Yeah.
Justin started with one and he just started franchising right away, and
Good
more power to him.
good call, Justin. You saved
I didn't
yourself.
plan on that. A little asterisk there. That was not planned.
Yeah,
it
but
just
it
happened,
works.
you know?
You have your core corporate store that you can focus on growing,
Exactly.
try new things.
You have the flagship, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and then just focus on growing the business side of things.
Yeah, I've actually toyed around with selling. So I have two locations. I started with two, but I've toyed around with like selling them. But some of the feedback I've gotten from my own franchisees is like, hey, part of the reason we believe in this is because you have your own, that like you have to, one, make work, but two, you can try things at before you just tell other franchisees to, hey, we're going to switch this system, without really trying it. So I kind of use my main location as, let me just try trip protection here. Let me see if that works. Let me try changing the cancellation policy. Let me try changing some prices, so it's kind of like my little trial location that I do some things at before we end up rolling it out system wide, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that's great. Like for us, like I spent 2023 kind of playing around with pricing up and down and building sensitivity analysis, like trying to figure out demand and stuff like that. But I did it across like different segments, and it's so complicated to have all these different corporate stores, because I don't know, I feel like I'm not getting a true sense with just the one store. Because let's say I do it in Boston, which is like our flagship store. Is it going to work in Birmingham, Alabama? I don't know. Or is it going to work in Montreal? I don't know, right? Because it's so geographically dependent too. So based on kind of like the wealth side of things. But it's great that you have one store to kind of test and play with that. So hopefully I'll get to that point in the next 24 months or sooner. That's kind of my plan, is to sell or close corporate stores so I can focus on the franchising side of the business.
Yeah, I was going to ask you kind of what's your goal with the business, I mean, when you both, like when you started it, kind of what it was your vision, and then like now today, like what do you want to do with this? Do you want to become huge, are you trying to sell the business? What are your plans?
I've got my fingers in another business that I'm starting. So City Brew Tours is kind of operating right now. I'm not franchise. There's opportunity on the franchise side, not focusing on corporate really. I'm trying to kind of scale down that side of things with the potential of an exit soon, I think. And yeah, City Brew Tours is kind of a bigger brand than just the tours aspect. So you've got the franchise arm, but then you also have a direct-to-consumer business that we launched. So because we wanted a way to increase lifetime value of the customer, and to get them to go on a tour is very geographically centric, right? So if someone's in Boston, the chance of them going to Phoenix to go on a tour is very, very rare, right? So it's a pretty hard commitment. So we took the idea of the City Brew Tours and turned it into a virtual product where we do a beer of the month club. So there's that aspect too. So essentially we focus on a new city every month and send the best beer from that city to people all over the country, and do a live stream with like the founders. So that's something that we have. And then we have our holiday boxes. That's all under the City Brew Tours umbrella. So yeah, I think either carve that up, sell off. I think that's probably what I plan on doing, is first operations goes away, then direct to consumer goes away, and then kind of piecemealing it out as I build franchises.
Well, it's a Get Up and Scale exclusive. You heard it here first.
That's right.
Chad's secret plans.
Secret plans.
Don't
Yeah,
know what
so-
the timeline is. We'll kind of just play it by ear on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, all of us would probably sell for the right price, right? I don't think
exactly.
yeah, and so if anyone wants to come and buy City Brew Tours, hit up Chad and have a conversation.
I'm
so
open to it.
It's interesting, you know, where you're at. I think is in a really cool place, and seeing how much breweries have grown is crazy to me, you know. And being in early, I think, was probably a big reason that, you know, you've made it to where you have. But I also think you being you is a big reason that you've made it to where you're at. Have you found like any really good systems that you utilize? Like, I think of like branding. Like, how do you look at branding? What systems do you use? Like, are there any little tidbits you've learned along the way that has helped you get to 20 plus locations?
I think you really need to understand marketing. That's got to be first and foremost, because that's, I think, where people, and obviously you guys know this based on scaling your business, like marketing is the fuel that drives any business. And that's probably one of the biggest things I need to stress to my franchisees, is that you need to invest thousands of dollars a month in marketing, and it's going to hurt a little bit, but that's how you're going to hit scale, is by spending those dollars and that time in understanding it and hiring people that know it, right? So I didn't try to learn digital marketing in the beginning at all, and I understand it, but I'm not managing my own accounts. I'm paying a freelancer. In the beginning, I was paying a freelancer to just do it for minimal by the hour, not a percentage of spend or anything like that, and that was part of it. And then learning SEO, right? Same thing. Like, those are going to be the crucial things that I feel like were so important. And looking professional. I mean, that's kind of like the branding side of things. If you look at this website and you look at some of the bigger websites, do you feel like you feel comfortable buying from that business? I mean, that's something I'm going through right now. I'm starting a brand new business right now. I took all the things that I'm not a fan of for City Brew Tours and unbox and launching a business this Saturday, a brand new business.
Is this Kid Crawl?
This is Kid Crawl. Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment.
You don't stop, man. I was gonna say you're an animal.
Yeah, so this is Kid
I thought
Crawl.
you were tired.
That's why.
This is why you're tired. Yeah.
Exactly. I can't sit still.
Okay. Well, this is another.
It's that shiny. It's the shiny object, which is probably bad, but
Man.
But as I've grown as a person, and there's different interests that I want to explore. Yeah. Now that I kind of have this platform to scale other businesses.
Yeah. Okay. So another Get Up and Scale exclusive. Talk to us about Kid Crawl.
Yeah. So Kid Crawl is a family scavenger hunt tech company. So it's a children's technology company that builds family scavenger hunts that turn urban areas into storybook treasure hunts. So, and it's all smartphone based. And the best part, there are no employees, there are no tour guides, and it's all automated. So once I set up the relationships with our local businesses, then it just runs. And so our first location's in Newton, Massachusetts, this suburb of Boston. And the idea is that it's for kids ages 4 to 9. And they're following this purple dog named Ollie, who is actually in remembrance of my dog who recently passed this year, named Oliver. and it's this guy right here. This is Ollie, the dog. And I just got 500 of these made in China. So these will be here soon. And they're going on his adventure, and he leaves clues. And they happen to meet Ollie. They could buy Ollie. They take pictures with Ollie, all as part of this experience.
So cool. It's so different than the audience that's going to the brewery tours, right? I mean, we're going from 25 plus to under 9.
I built the technology actually for City Brew Tours. I built it as a mystery pub crawl. And then I realized that I didn't want to keep marketing to the same people because, as you guys know, to reach our audience is not cheap. It's very noisy. There's so much out there from an activity perspective. And we're also kind of we are 100% a luxury good. They don't need our products. If someone didn't go on a brew tour this Saturday, maybe if it's a bachelor party, their life is probably not changing that much, except if it's a bachelor party.
Yeah, you and I, Chad, have pretty much the same market, almost exactly, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know how much is corporate for you in regards versus like bachelor public tours.
10-20%.
So yeah, we're about 50% corporate. Like we do like
so that's a bigger part of your business than mine. Yeah.
So we did last Saturday we did like 120 50 person brew tour kind of thing.
Crazy.
But yeah, so I think we probably definitely have a similar market because it's that drinking focused. If anything, yours is probably bigger in the sense that you're not just exclusively beer, and so we're exclusively beer. So you probably have a little more of an edge because you can accommodate all drinking preferences.
Your demographic has a lot of facial hair.
Definitely more facial hair. This is the most that I've grown it a little bit, but not that much. So
I think the standard brewery snob, right? It's got a nice beard, flannel shirt, hiking boots on.
Yeah, that's like the quintessential craft beer person that's going to tell you way too much about this beer that you didn't ask to know about.
It's a good thing you're in Asheville because that's like everyone who lives there.
We actually cater to not that person. That person won't go on a brew tour.
They already know about this.
They know. They won't be like, oh, I'm gonna go on this tour. No, we're like the beer novice, beer curious individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for us.
Beer curious. I like that.
Yeah, beer curious.
Yeah.
I like that.
You probably have a pretty big insight into the brewery industry in general, right? You're like a leading indicator.
Definitely.
The 2000s
in a lot of different pieces. We're a leading indicator on a corporate development perspective of what are people doing from corporations, from developing of team building, stuff like that, as well as drinking habits, what people like, what people don't like. We've got
I
haven't been able to leverage it yet.
Yeah, like post-COVID, the market is so weird, like in so many ways, right? Like everything is
so many ways.
It's so weird. It's so unpredictable. What do you see happening from these leading indicators? How's the brewery industry going? What's happening with corporate tours? Like, what do you see are the trends right now, and what do you think the future looks like for us tour operators?
I think that it's, like you said, different. It's really hard to pinpoint. From a brewery perspective, breweries need to make good beer. There's too many breweries out there now, so there is going to be some contraction in the market, and there already has been from a craft brewing perspective. And the people that are going to continue are going to be making really good beer. There's just too much beer out there. There needs to be some kind of consolidation event where people that don't make great beer are not probably going to make it for another 24 months. And then from our tour perspective, I would say that corporates haven't come back to where they were. I would say they're still down. we changed our business model a bit. Something that has been because our revenue isn't where it was 2019 numbers. So I made some pretty big changes in like how we operate the business that improved our gross profit by like pretty solid, like 10% on the GP side of things. So that's been really helpful in regards to the cutting with the revenue decrease and not being back to 2019 numbers. We needed to find another way to be profitable. So we made some changes with how we're dealing with partners. I'll share this with you. I don't know if I don't think this is proprietary, but whatever. What we are doing with some breweries now is because it's always kind of been we've paid the breweries, our partners, to bring groups through because I never felt like it was fair for them to just give away free product. I always felt like we needed to, even though we were bringing people through the door, but now we're making it a little bit more even. And for every dollar spent on that from that guest, it comes off of our tab, and so that's dropped our beer costs pretty significantly too in the cities that we've rolled it out in, which has played, and that's one of the biggest cost of goods for us is the beer and food costs side of things. And we also got rid of our food on our tours in 2023 and our public tours because when we were kind of doing analysis of customers and stuff like that, you've got like your post survey and your pre survey and trying to understand like because as a tour operator, it's very different. Why someone books is very different when they tell you what was the best part of their tour. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but like those are completely separate. They would be like you're interviewing two completely different people. And so food was never really on as the reason and so we just kind of removed it, reduced our price a little bit, and now we made it into like a private tour exclusive. So only if you're doing like a bachelor or like a private tour can you even get a beer and food pairing, which also helped a lot. So those are some big changes that we made from like an operational perspective that I would say from like your audience, like looking at your gross profits and seeing how you can be what's important to your customers is so critical in regards to what should you keep, because like the food, we were losing money on the food. It cost us $25 to do a beer and food pairing, and it extended the experience by like an hour and a half. So not only were we paying a guide more, we were losing money on the food. We thought it was just something that when I started the business, I always had a beer and food pairing, and just got rid of the original tour. And now we just have the signature tour experience. We only have one tour. We don't have a bunch of different options because we've found that if someone wants to go on a brew tour, they've already made the decision that they're going to do this kind of drinking activity. It's now just a decision of does the time fit. At least that's how I see it in regards to like my users and my guests side of things. Sorry if that was a little rant.
No, that was great. I think it's really good information. It almost makes me think that you should open a brewery because you're one, an expert, and two, you could send your own customers to your business, you know? He's just shaking his head.
I will never, ever, 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 ever open any type of alcohol production facility.
He knows too much.
He's too deep. He's too deep.
It's I would not invest in one. I already made that decision of investing in a brewery. I will not ever invest in one again, and I will never open one myself. If you want to lose your money or never see any kind of return on your money, then that's a great business to go into, because if you want to make more beer, guess what? You got to buy more equipment.
Yeah.
So unless you're okay continuing to buy more and more and more equipment and scaling, and no, thank you. Not a cup of tea that I want to or a pint of beer that I want to
it's a pint
consume.
Of beer. People always say the same thing to me, Justin. They're like, you should just open a bar and then you can bring all your customers there.
I know, right?
Yeah, but then I'd have to run a bar.
Exactly.
That's not what you wanted. That's why you started something else.
No brick and mortar. You don't want to pay rent. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if you pay rent or
Oh
not.
man, we have lots of rent.
Oh yeah, you probably have
You're
slips and
lucky.
stuff.
Your buses, like you could just park them. Like our trolleys, and our boats, they gotta
You
have.
should work. Ever reached out to hotels and see if you could? Well, it's probably a bad idea to keep a trolley in a hotel. They would just jump on it and probably.
Oh yeah, we've kept them at hotels. Yeah, we've done everything, Chad. We've done everything you imagine. Parking garages, shipping containers. We've done, we've done a little bit of everything. But best thing are warehouses, and some of our locations have retail operations too. So.
Kai has his own Todd that he texts and say, "Hey, can I leave my trolley pub in your garage?"
Yeah, the employees have to. It's like a round robin. It goes from one employee's garage to another. It's
Does
genius.
it really?
No.
Oh, I was like, that doesn't sound like a good idea.
I was trying to steal your idea.
Yeah, right. Oh man, so it's crazy, like how similar your guys' two journeys are. I think
Yeah, a lot of parallels.
hearing from Kai and now learning, what you've done, Chad. It's crazy how similar like the paths have been. I think it's interesting that Kai has taken on two other businesses, or more. Like he has 3 different franchisable businesses in there. Have you thought about and I think you're kind of doing that with Kid Crawl, but have you thought about other tour businesses to kind of pair with what you're doing now?
No, I haven't, Kai. If you want to add a City Brew Tours to your tour scale franchise, look there. That could be. You could sell a City Brew Tour to your.
I'll be honest, Chad.
existing
I'm interested.
franchisee.
Yeah, let's talk. I'm interested. I'm a sucker for pain. I'll put it that way.
No, I've never really kind of tried to go and do another tour operation because I always felt like it was one of the things like I loved about I always wanted to do like a food tour and whatnot, but the thing with food is that and maybe I'm just wrong in this regard, but I feel like it's much harder to scale a food tour, and the location by location I think is a challenge too in that regard. Like as me and Kai we don't want to open those corporate locations. So if I was to do something, maybe it'd be like a new franchise tour, but then I have to figure out everything about that side of things. And as I said, I'm tired. And starting another tour company doesn't like it is, as you guys know, with guides and very much you really need to live and breathe that tour operation. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed because hospitality is so important and you just need to be there for those customers. And so one of the reasons Kid Crawl, I love it so much, is that it doesn't require hoping that guide shows up for this big tour.
Yeah.
Like that's not a thing in that regard. And that was kind of one of the ideas around. So if I was to do another thing, I would take this tech that I built and leverage that for my franchisees, which they've already asked. So like you can go to citybrewtours.com/Boston, and then you can look at the mystery crawl. And that's something that, as I'm building it out right now, that's something that the tour, I'll probably roll out to my franchisees once I can get it really nice and neat, where it's something they can just be able to launch on their own, which is kind of, right now it's a little labor intensive.
Yeah. So is the plan to kind of scale Kid Crawl in a franchise way, or do you think that because it's less hands-on that you may want to open more of those corporately? Like, have you thought that far ahead for what the future of that looks like?
In what sense? Say that again, that last part?
Just for Kid Crawl, are you planning on franchising that too, or do you think that that's something you're just kind of taking on to open yourself?
I think that for Kid Crawl, it depends on. Right now, we're just still tricking. I have no idea what the market fit is right now. I'll know in 2 weeks. Ask me that in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
As soon as I know my return on ad spend will really dictate how big and how fast I move with Kid Crawl. If I raise money, if I Like if there's real traction real quick, like I see that as a whole ecosystem. So like this is just Ollie the dog that you can buy, right? But Ollie might have friends. One of the parts of the book is you read a book at one of the bookstores. Right now we're just picking a random book that kind of meets that 4 to 9 range that's compelling and mystery. I'll have my wife, we'll write our own books and sell them to the bookstore. So that's kind of like a whole ecosystem that, and there's licensing opportunities. Imagine Bluey, right? Kai, you have kid, like imagine a Bluey Kid Crawl, like getting the licensing of.
I can imagine it.
That would be bonkers. And so there's so many different like angles on the Kid Crawl side of things.
It's smart. There's not a lot of competition for tours that are angled towards young children in that way. So in that sense, it's like a wide open market. I really appreciate that you've taken your 15 years of business experience and you've said, all right, I'm a seasoned entrepreneur. I know what makes businesses hard. And so I'm going to design a business specifically to try to like avoid some of the pitfalls or some of the frustrations I've had. So I admire that a lot. I've taken the opposite route, which is I understand how hard this is, and then I keep doubling down and making it harder. You know, like we did tours, we're like, why don't we build this stuff too? Yeah. Right? So you're a smarter man than me, Chad. I really admire your business plan.
Thanks, Kai. Appreciate it. It's and with something that if anyone is interested in the kids world, the Facebook, you know how Facebook has made all these changes with their pixel, not calling it a pixel anymore. Now it's a data set, all this stuff. But I couldn't believe it that Facebook kept parents ages 0 to 2 or 3, and then 3 to 5, and then 5 to 8 and 9. Those are actual segments that you can target in Facebook still. And that's my target demographic for the Kid Crawl, which is nothing like we have for the tour, especially once they got rid of the traveling too. Like that screwed us so bad when we used to be able to target to guests that were traveling to a location or interested in traveling.
We got zucked so bad so many times.
Yeah, so that's one of my new favorite tidbits about the children's space is that you have that segmented already out based on Facebook criteria.
Yeah, and it's huge. The market's just massive. You know, I like you have kids and you start to get to know like kid stuff and kid products and kid marketing, right? And it was wild to me that these random YouTubers, kids watch all these YouTube videos.
It's Rachel.
Yeah. But like they make so much money. It's incredible. Like the Wiggles, the Wiggles in Australia.
Oh yeah, the Wiggles, yeah.
I was looking up the net worth of some of these like individuals. It's sickening. And they get around, they sing it. I mean, they're talented, but like, holy cow.
I'd love to see your recent search history.
Would you?
Yeah.
He said, I was looking up the Wiggles net worth.
What is Kai's searches? Like Wiggles, Bluey, just net worth of these individuals.
Yeah, in between, it's like random parts I'm always trying to find to fix things that are breaking.
Yeah, right. Man, Chad, thank you so much for joining.
No, this was a blast, guys. Thanks for having me.
Really cool story over a long period of time. You've grown something from literally nothing, and I think that's one of the coolest parts of this. Is starting out in school as a side hustle for a few years. You turn it into an actual business for yourself, then you turn it into a franchise and business for other people, and that's one of the the most rewarding parts of being like a franchisor is giving the opportunity to franchisees and other people. So applaud you for that and your journey, man. And thanks for sharing it all with us too.
No, thanks. I love your LinkedIn posts of all the reasons, your different reasons of why you love franchising. And I think that's one of the things that I was a sole entrepreneur when I launched City Brew Tours, and it's freaking hard. And not having that support system like that's something that with franchising you get this robust support system. You're not at it alone, and that's one of the kind of things that I didn't want someone to feel like how I felt being kind of this sole entrepreneur launching brew tours back then. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits of franchising, that you have this support system.
100%. Thanks,
All
Chad.
right, anything
Appreciate
else?
it. No, I was just, thanks for joining. It's cool to hear my own story come out of someone else.
That's crazy.
I gotta work, grind. That's just the way it is. I gotta get up, scale, and grow my biz. I gotta scale, grow.